I was only 15. I was done with a sewing needle, a pencil, and some ink that we bought at a craft store. Hey guys, it's Danielle and welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to a brand new video where I show you my full tattoo tour. Hey guys, so before we get started, I just wanted to give a little disclaimer and apologize in advance. It does look like I've been kidnapped and held at gunpoint to film this video, but I am simply just bad at making eye contact. The window on my right has apparently caught my eye and it continues to catch my eye, so I apologize for my eyes constantly being distracted by the shiny pretty window. So just 2 videos ago I actually showed you guys how I did my leg tattoo, which was with my first tattoo gun just at home. If you want to check that out, I'll leave the links in the description below. This video is going to be more about each tattoo that I have, the meaning behind it, who did it, if I did it myself or if I went to a professional, and those kind of details, so I hope you enjoy. I've got my coffee here. If you've also got your coffee, then let's get into it. And my first stick and poke was on the 8th of May 2016 when I was only 15, and it was done with a sewing needle, a pencil, and some ink that we bought at a craft store. My friends and I were basically just at a sleepover and we decided to do our own tattoos. I'm not saying I recommend any of this, but this is my story. We each gave ourselves our own specific tattoos that were meaningful to us. Yeah. Yeah. Do you want to come up here? Come here. She loves when I talk out loud. She thinks I'm talking to her. Hello, baby. Do you want to sit in my lap? So my tattoo was just on the inside of my left foot. It's right under my ankle. It was just a 01 and that represented the year of birth of my little sister. So I just thought for my first tattoo I should get something really meaningful, and of course me and my sister love each other, so that was a really meaningful tattoo for us. Next tattoo was over a year later when I was already 17. This one was on the 14th of November 2017. At this point I had all the correct needles and the inks and everything that I needed to do the tattoo, so they were a lot better done, but I didn't have a stencil just yet. So on that day I gave myself 2 new stick and poke tattoos. One was on my foot and one was on my finger. As we can see from the photo, it took over 4 hours, which is pretty funny to see now because I've gotten a lot quicker at it, especially when it was my first time using the proper needles and things. I still wasn't too good at it. Now I have an actual piece that the needles go onto. It works a lot better than just trying to grab a needle that's very thin. So the first tattoo is on the inside of my ring finger and it's a V and it represents veganism. This was when I first started out being a vegan and I thought it would be good to get something that represented that on myself, and I just chose to do a really nice cute little V on the inside of my finger. The second tattoo I did on the same day. It's on my inner right foot. This one is for the Calf269 animal rights movement. I'll leave some details down below if you want to research a bit more of that movement. A year later, when I was freshly 18, I got my first tattoo done from a professional tattoo artist. This one was just on the back of my neck and just represented the name of my first ever cat that was properly mine. So I had had many pets and guinea pigs and cats and things, but this was the first cat that I had adopted that was entirely my own. My sister got its twin and those were our cats rather than sharing cats, if that makes sense. He was my best friend all through high school and a few years after high school, which I was so lucky to have, and I just got his name approximately a year after I had adopted him. So this one I did around October 2018, I'm not sure of the exact date. At this point I had already turned 18 and I was allowed to get tattoos. The next tattoo I got was on my upper right arm, on the bicep area. This one was also a professionally tattooed one. So I got this tattoo done on the 15th of October 2019, and this was when I was already 19 years old. This one's just a cat paw and a human hand holding each other, and around it I've got Portuguese writing that I wrote, and it reads Por aqueles desaparecidos, which basically means for those that are missing, gone, that have disappeared. And I got this tattoo for the pets that had passed away and also for those that have cruelly passed away by horrible people, which unfortunately did happen to some of my pets. As you may have figured out, I have had many pets and a lot of the tattoos that I have on my body represent either my pets or my love for animals. I'll also mention now how I show my tattoo ideas to my artists and give them sort of the stencil and the outline of what I want. So I actually use my Apple iPad with the pencil. I'm able on there to sketch out what I want, even do a really detailed version or exactly what I want to put on my body. I had actually found some ideas online, so I had this one of a person's hand with a dog paw. I actually changed it to a cat paw and I drew that in and I added my own little details, and then I actually found a font online and my own cursive for that font to go around the image. A month later, on the 19th of November 2019, I got my third professional tattoo. This one was on the upper thigh on my left side and it just reads Bambi. It was another one that I had found font online and then just kind of molded it to what I wanted to say. This one's just a tattoo to represent all the movies I used to watch growing up that my parents had got, all the Disney and Pixar and those kind of movies that everyone loves. Happiness that brought me as a child. The movie specifically is Bambi for no particular reason other than to kind of match the theme of the rest of my body, which is animals, and also because the movie itself is actually a representation of animal rights in its own way, where it does speak about the problem of deforestation and hunting. It was a reminder of that side of that movie because a lot of people look over that movie without thinking of that side, and also just because Bambi's cute and he's a little deer and I love cute little animals, of course. When I was still 19, I got my next professionally done tattoo, which was on my ribs, and it was just in a curved script, more neat and stretched out than I had usually done with my other ones. This was done on the 24th of June 2020. My best friend and I at the time wanted to get our own tattoos, so we decided to make a day of it and go together, so she got her tattoo and I got this one. This is just a section of a nursery rhyme that my parents used to sing to me and my sister when we were younger, and we used to love the song, and it's such a cute little song about little birds, and I just got the end part of it, which says "Nunca se faz mal a ninho," which basically means you never do wrong to a bird's nest. They talk about how fragile and cute the birds are. And you may have noticed at the end of the sentence is ninho again, which is a reoccurring word that happened on the back of my neck, which is the name of my cat. He was actually named after this part of that nursery rhyme. I named him to mean nest. Ninho means nest in Portuguese, like a bird's nest, and that was basically for the reason that he always made me feel so happy and at home, like I'm in my own little bird's nest with him. So I thought that was a cute name for him. So his name actually occurs twice on my body. In October of 2020, I gave myself my next stick and poke tattoo. This one was also done with professional needles and with my little pen-like mechanism that made it a lot easier to tattoo. So this one's just a ring on my ring finger of my left hand. It doesn't go all the way around just because I like to have my hands at the bottom looking nice and clean, but it just stops on either side, and I'll show a close-up of that as well. And then I've just got a ring under that. Doesn't mean I'm married, I just like to have rings there. But this ring is basically to show a commitment to my pets, to always give them everything they need, always make them happy and put their happiness first. One day I'll go in line with the ring of my partner that I'll be married to, and it'll make a little family on my hand. And I thought that was a cute idea that my pets also get a ring for themselves. Around the same time that I gave my ring tattoo, I also gave myself a stick and poke on my foot right next to my sister's tattoo, the year of birth of my mum and dad. So as you can probably tell, there's a trend following on my foot, and this foot is very meaningful. On the 15th of October 2020, my sister and I went to get matching tattoos together. We each got a tattoo right here under our collarbones, right in the middle of our chest. We got different words but the same placement and style, and mine just says sanctuary. So mine means I want to be a sanctuary for my animals and for everyone that comes into my life, just like my parents have always been to all my friends that come into the house and to all my pets that I've brought in. I just want a safe environment that's like a sanctuary, and that's the kind of energy and vibes I always want to be able to give off. So next is 2021, the year I got the majority of my tattoos. So all of the rest of the tattoos I either gave myself or got right before my 21st birthday. First tattoo of 2021 was done professionally, and it was on my right lower thigh, and it is one of my favorite poems that I studied in advanced English high school. It's a part of an 1850s sonnet, which was a part of the collection Sonnets from the Portuguese by Elizabeth Barrett Browning. She was a Victorian English poet. This particular sonnet is sonnet 14, and I've just got the intro sort of lines of it, and it goes, "If thou must love me, let it be for naught except for love's sake only." And I'll have the rest of the poem here that you can read. This quote means that she doesn't want to be loved for any particular reasons, such as looks or mannerisms, where these things can change over time. She wants to be loved for only love's sake only. She wants her lover to love her simply because he does, as this won't be wrought over time. She desires a love that'll last through eternity. So I really enjoyed that piece and I got it on myself. A month later, on the 26th of February, I gave myself a tattoo on my lower left thigh. This one I just did with a pen outline and once again a stick and poke, and it's pretty self-explanatory. It says Mathers, M, which stands for Marshall Mathers, Eminem. I love Eminem and all his songs, and I love him to death, and I put him onto my body. So there's not much else to say about that tattoo. On the 22nd of April, I gave myself my first colored tattoo, which is in red, and it's at the bottom of my left arm and right underneath the crease of the elbow. This was also the first tattoo I gave myself with a stencil that I bought online. I bought tattoo transfer stencil paper, which was just drawing something on my iPad, printing it out, and then tracing over it on the stencil and then applying that to my skin. And then I'm able to tattoo without having to worry about a line that's too thick or one that smudges or things like that, so it made the entire process so much easier to do. So as you can see, this one is an outline of a motorhome. This just shows my childhood of traveling all around Australia with my parents in motorhomes and vans that my dad either created or renovated. We used to go every weekend in our motorhome and for a lot of the holidays and the big holidays. In May, I got my first tattoo gun, and on the 4th I decided to test it out on myself. I was just fixing up the old tattoo of my 269 on my foot because I had done it really rushed and it was starting to fade. It was just poorly done because, as we mentioned before, it took me 4 hours, and by the time I finished my hand I was sick of it and didn't want to do anymore. So I was just going over that one and fixing it up, and at least if I made a mistake with my new tattoo gun, then you couldn't really see it anyway, and it was on an old tattoo. Ended up turning out perfectly. I didn't really add too much, I just did a few filler lines and I felt a bit confident after that. I did a lot of practicing onto fake skin and things like that before I tried it again on myself, but I did get to do tattoos on myself with my proper tattoo gun, so that's pretty cool. So the next tattoo I gave myself was another stick and poke. This was after I had gotten my tattoo gun, but I wasn't using it on myself yet. Other than that one time. So this one is just on my wrist. This one says 2908 and just represents the day that Ningle passed away, which was the 29th of August 2020. This was a year since he had passed away, and I just decided to get a tattoo of him. On the 11th of May, I gave myself a cute little heart tattoo on the inside of my palm. Over the next few weeks, I kept applying this tattoo and kept filling it in, but because of how much you were washing hands and sanitizing, especially during COVID, it just kept fading away and it wasn't lasting. The area that was in was kind of a high impact area, and usually things on your hands don't last too long. I'm surprised that these ones on my hands have lasted as long as they have. Being a red color that would easily blend into my skin and fade away, it didn't last long, and eventually I just gave up. I wasn't willing to risk using a tattoo gun, which probably would have lasted longer. I just didn't think that it would be a good idea on such a tiny piece, so I just thought it was cute while it lasted, and this is just a chance for me to not have it, which is pretty cool because you don't usually get that with tattoos. The next day, on the 12th of May, I gave myself another tattoo, which was actually on the inside of my wrist right under my Ningle Dates tattoo, which was some little angel wings, and they were just in white and also done by a stick and poke. This one didn't last, unfortunately. It's in a really thin and sensitive area, and it just kept getting infected, and there was nothing I could do to revive it, especially having to go over the same spot so many times because of using white ink. It just wasn't going to last, and unfortunately they were so cute, but they did disappear and turn into a massive wound that then had healing that actually divoted into my skin. But luckily, I don't know how, it's been a year now and it is completely gone. You can only see a few little specks of white that just look like a scar, but you can't even barely see the scar anymore, and I'm so thankful that it turned out a lot better than I thought it would, because it really was looking like it was going to be a scar that would last on me forever. But luckily it didn't, and I'm not going to try to do the tattoo again, even though I loved it so much. It's just not worth the risk of getting infected and possibly ruining my other tattoos and my skin. So I'm just going to leave it and not try to do it with the tattoo gun. The next day, on the 13th, I gave myself another stick and poke tattoo. This one was on my right lower leg, right above my ankle on the outside, and this one was an outline of the creation of Adam. I gave myself this tattoo for my love of art. This one was also a hopeful faith that we could be kinder to the earth and hopefully slowly reverse the impact that we've had on the earth back to how we found it when we first got here. This tattoo is in no way anything religious based, it's just because I like Michelangelo's painting and it happens to be the creation of Adam. A few weeks later I gave myself my second coloured tattoo, which was also a stick and poke, and I gave it to myself on the 29th of June. This one's on the inside of my left calf and reads "Gary Come Home," which is from one of SpongeBob's well-known episodes, and of course, if you saw my last video and if you want to see more detail on this tattoo and me actually doing the tattoo, you can also watch that last video. I'll have the link here and I'll put it down below. And to me it means that I'm hopefully playing the "all my animals come home to me every night safe and sound and happy." On the 14th of July I started on the outline of flowers around my Gary tattoo. This was a tattoo that took me a long time, especially because it was the first tattoo I was doing with my tattoo gun, for real. So this one I did the outline with my tattoo gun, the outline of my flowers, and then I coloured in very briefly, but I just wasn't going hard enough so a lot of the colour didn't stick. But this was basically a test run because I had no one else to test on but myself. So I did all those and I knew this piece would take at least 2 sessions, so I decided to let it heal completely before I got back to it and finished it off. So at this point I had a really light outline of the flowers and the colours, so that the next time I came to finish it off I didn't need a stencil or anything, I just needed to finish it. But as I was in the middle of moving when this happened, it took me about 4 months to get back into it. So on the 5th of November 2021 I finally came back and finished it. This was after I had turned 21. I finished it off and made that video about it showing my actual process and me tattooing it close up, and it turned out really great for my first coloured tattoo. And I thought that it would be a safer bet to start with the tattoo gun without black, but rather colour that kind of fades a bit. But I think it turned out really well. Of course, some parts are still a little dodgy because I've never used a tattoo gun before and I'm not really sure of the rules. But I think I did a good job of filling in all the flowers and I really love the way it turned out. And then we're on to my last tattoo, which is actually an Avatar: The Last Airbender tattoo on the outside of my right thigh. This is an Order of the White Lotus tattoo that is inspired by the show and the meaning of it behind the show, but also, to put it simply, it signifies to me the seeking of philosophy, beauty and truth. It also reminds me of the sweet and kind nature that I hope to mimic from Uncle Iroh, which is part of that group. This tattoo I did in white, and it was my last tattoo and my second tattoo I had done with my tattoo gun. I really like how it turned out, especially using white ink. The ink of course doesn't last forever, it's white and it discolors. And it's actually discolored to the colour of my skin tone, so now it just looks like a really cool optical illusion that looks like it's a part of my skin and looks more of a scar rather than a tattoo. But either way, I love how it turned out. I loved it when it was white and I love it now that it's skin coloured and looks like a scar. I think it just looks really cool. And that is basically all of my tattoos. So in total, I've had 12 stick and poke tattoos, 6 done professionally and 2 done by myself with a tattoo gun. So that is in total 20 tattoos, but only 18 that you can actually see anymore because the other ones were either scarred over or just completely faded. I've had quite a long history of giving myself tattoos at this point, which is pretty funny that when I was 15 I gave myself that first tattoo and I was like, that's it, I don't want any more. I don't really have anything else that I want to tattoo on myself. And then 19 more happened. So I've been tattooing amateurly, not professionally at all, and without any sort of skill other than practice for about 6 years now, which is pretty funny. And I really hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed your coffee, and thank you so much for following along. If you enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up and subscribe down below to see more. Comment anything that you want to see from me next, and I'll leave my Instagram here if you want to follow me as well. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye!